Hello humans, Master Dinnerflex here, bringing you the low quality content you deserve, and today I will be showing off the new Silent Force cards, I believe that's how they're pronounced. And it's actually really interesting, because as I was testing this deck, getting it more complete, then they announced a bunch of Magispectors, so there's probably going to be a week of just a bunch of cards getting revealed, and me testing them out. But I wanted to test out this one first, because when looking at the cards, my immediate thoughts were this is cool, but it felt like there was an effect missing from the archetype. As weird as that sounds, it felt like there was a hole in the deck that needed to be patched, so I spent some time tinkering to get it to the place I want it to be. So we are going to do quite a few quick combos just to demonstrate like some of the hands you can get with this deck and show off some of the combos. So for this one, what you need is Saphira and Prep. We are going to discard Saphira. Now this card, you can discard it, send a ritual spell from your deck to the graveyard, then add a Light Warrior or Dragon Ritual monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Now, we are going to dump the Silent Force ritual spell, and then we are going to add Saphira. Now, this is something I saw a lot of people not playing, but there's a specific reason why I choose to play Saphira, and with Prep, we get to add a ritual monster from our deck to our hand. Everyone knows that. But its bonus effect, if there's a ritual spell in your graveyard, you can also add that to your hand, which is, opening these two is like really nice. So now, we are going to activate Silent Force Prayer, tribute the Ben 10 to special summon Saphira, and this is one of the main reasons why I play it. Because Ben 10 is such an insanely powerful tutor to get to the fairies in your deck so you can keep ritual summoning. But since most of this deck is level 7 outside of Saphira, Saphira has its own benefits. So, Ben 10 will trigger, and that will allow us to get the new Navox, the Silent Force Disciple. And now, we can normal summon this card, and when we do, we can set a Silent Force Continuous Spell or Trap directly from our deck, and we will get Silent Force Barrier. And with Barrier, we can go ahead and activate it to search a Silent Force card or a Skull Guardian Ritual monster. And we are going to add Skull Guardian, the new one, the Silent Forcing Protector. Now, we are going to use Saphira's other effect. In the graveyard, you can banish it, and it allows you to ritual summon any Light Warrior or Dragon Ritual monster. So we will tribute Navox, because it can be used as the entire tribute material for a Light Warrior or Dragon Ritual monster, special summon Skull Guardian. Chainlink 1 will be Skull Guardian, Chainlink 2 will be Navox, that can special summon itself if a ritual of these types gets special summoned, and Navox can then search a Silent Force monster or a Light Warrior or Dragon Ritual monster. And we are going to add the new Sarveus. And when you do that, it has a summoning condition. You can just special summon it by shuffling 2 spells in your graveyard into the deck, including at least 1 ritual spell. So now, with the 2-card setup, we have this. So what is this? During the end phase, we still have 3 random cards in our hand. The Saphira can choose 3 options. It can draw 2 cards, discard 1 card, so we could put this at a 4 and fix our hand. Or we could recycle the Ben 10 if we so need to. And then the final option is we can actually discard a random card out of our opponent's hand, so now they only have 5 cards to deal with our board. And what is our board, you may be asking? So this Skull Guardian, while it's on the field, it gains 20-50 attack if Navox is there, so it's a 41 beater. Silent Forcing Barrier means they have to attack the ritual monsters. And then finally, this is just an Omni Negate while you control Navox. And then this Sarveus, it can return itself to the hand to special summon a Light Warrior Dragon Ritual monster from the deck, but it's returned to the hand during the next end phase, so you can summon Sarveus. And Sarveus, when it's on the field, you can return it to the hand, and it becomes a Black Horn of Heaven that banishes that monster. So it's a Summon Negate and an Omni Negate off of 2 cards, and we still have the 3 cards we were working with. So as you can see, it's a lot of value for very little setup, and it's like generic ritual stuff like Ben 10 and Prep and all these kinds of cards. Very simple setup, and it can get you very far very quick. And not to mention, if we discard a card out of our opponent's hand, like, they're playing with lower numbers to deal with our accelerating board, because this is actually a lot of follow-up. Because this can let you ritual summon, because these two are, this is both a ritual and this is the entire requirement if so needed. So as you can see, there's just a lot you can get very fast with these cards, but let's show off a few other demo hands. Alright, for this next combo, this is a similar hand you can get in every one of these scenarios. Like I said, It's just like a variation on hands you can get. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this. We'll start with Saphira. We will dump a ritual spell, and this time we can just dump a Siloforcing Prayer, and we will add Skull Guardian. Then next we will normal summon Navox, go ahead and activate from deck the continuous spell, which of course we will use to get the other Siloforce monster we want, which I think we will go ahead and get Sarveus here. Next, we will ritual summon using Saphira from our grave to special summon Skull Guardian. Go ahead and tribute this. This will come back. And then Skull Guardian will search one of the types, symphonic or whatever monster. I'm done pronouncing them. You know what I'm meaning. You can either search those monsters or one of the ritual types. And this time, we're going to demonstrate Odd Eye's Pendulum Graph Dragon. So like I was saying at the start of the video, it felt like there was a hole in this deck. There was a type of effect that was missing, and that was a ritual monster that can get 2 ritual spells. And as weird as that sounds, that was coming up so often that I was like, man, this really needs this. And that's where Odd Eye's Pendulum Graph comes to step up. Not only is it part of this typing because it's a light dragon ritual monster, but on the field, it has 2 disruptive effects. One is just burn 300 every time they go into their extra deck. That's not relevant. That's not enough to matter. However, it is a spell negate. Once per turn, when your opponent activates a spell card or effect, you can place it in your pendulum zone, negate that effect. Then if it was ritual summoned, and you place it in your pendulum zone, you can just special summon an Odd Eyes monster from your extra deck. That's pretty strong. So regardless, this is the kind of effect I was missing. A ritual monster that can get you back into ritual spells. So now we are going to tribute for Odd Eye's Pendulum Graph Dragon, and this might be weird because this needs to be up for you to have this negate with Skull Guardian. But trust me, I know what I'm doing. I'm a doctor. So next we will go ahead and shuffle these 2 back for Sarveus, and then we will end our turn. So the very second our opponent activates a card effect, it can't be like a Regeki or board wipe, because this can just tag out and then go ahead and go into an Odd Eyes. But otherwise, you're going to return this to the hand, and when you do, you will get Sarveus from the deck, and then Navox's effect triggers like it did last turn. When something like this is summoned that way, it can be special summoned out of the graveyard, and when this card is normal or special summoned, you can set a continuous spell or trap from the deck, and that's where this comes up. So this one, you can shuffle ritual spells or ritual monsters from your hand or grave into the deck to get one of the monsters of this archetype. However, the other effect is you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of Light Warrior and or Dragon Ritual monsters, destroy them. So at this point we have 2, but it was even possible 3. So what this end board is a Summon Negation, an Omni Negation, a Spell Negation, and 2 to 3 pops. And that's really cool. That's what I like about this archetype. But then when we go into our opponent's end phase after you thoroughly eliminate their cards, this is where the Pendulum effect of Odd Eye's Pendulum Dragon comes up. During the end phase, you can add 1 ritual spell from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which we will add Prayer, and then you can add this card back to your hand. Let's say we also just use that for the negate, and look at that, our hand is all the way stacked again. When you use the pops, this also goes to the grave, I should mention that. So look at all this follow-up we have, just because Pendulum Graph Dragon negated an opponent's spell. This is quite impressive, and this is the effect I felt this deck was missing. A ritual monster that could get you into spells, like certain paths can get you there. Like Saphira is a ritual spell basically, but I definitely felt like there was another way I needed to get there, and Pendulum Graph filled that void. So we're going to do maybe 1 to 2 more test stands. Now this next one, it is a much larger hand than the others, but it's just to demonstrate one of the combos that comes up in this deck, more than it is like the commonness of this hand. Even though this is like mostly engine cards, so it comes up. We'll start off with Navox. We will go ahead, set the continuous spell, and of course when we do that, we can go ahead and search Skull Guardian. Next, we are going to use Saphira. We are going to discard it, send the Siloforce Prayer, and then we are going to add an Odd Eye's Pendulum Graph Dragon. Next, we are going to use Reparation of Rights, stab this back, and go ahead and add another copy of Pendulum Graph. Next, we are going to use Saphira to tribute this, special summon Skull Guardian, tribute this comes back from grave, and then the Skull Guardian, go ahead, will add us a copy of Sarveus, the main deck monster, not the ritual monster. Next, we are going to go ahead and activate Prayer to go ahead, tribute this, to special summon this, and then this is where it gets a little weird. We're going to do that exactly again, except this time we are tributing this. And then finally, we can use a Sarveus to put these 2 spells back, and then we will end our turn on this, which seems a little weird. What is this setup? So obviously you know this one. When they go to make a single play, you tag into Sarveus, which gets back the Navox. And when the Navox comes back, we can get the continuous trap. So we turned what was a monster into 2 to 3 pops, and then like a summon negate. But in addition, remember when I said this can turn itself into an Odd Eyes monster from the extra deck? So when we negate a spell card with it, we make an Odd Eyes from our extra deck. That can include this one. And this is where it gets interesting. Because using this setup right here, we put a pendulum monster in our extra deck, so we turn our once spell negate into a follow-up Omni negate. So we go 1 spell negate, 1 Omni negate here, 1 Omni negate here, 2 to 3 pops, summon negate, and you can see where this is going. And not to mention, in the end phase, this goes back to our hand, and we get a ritual spell for it, and like I said, summon negate. So we would have like a 6-card hand follow-up after throwing all these disruptions at our opponent. It's pretty absurd when you have a setup like this. This can come up pretty often. I like this setup a lot because I think it's hilarious. But there's like other Odd Eyes monsters in the extra deck you can get into, but this is the most relevant one. All the others have really niche applications, like if your opponent has a battle phase effect, meteor burst, and like you go for like the rebellion dragons for big attack. But when you ritual summon pendulum graph with a pendulum graph is where this can come really big. So now that we got these demonstrations out of the way, let's do a real test hand. Now, this hand does something interesting that I put in my build for situations, just a lot of situations. We are going to add Herald of Perfection and Dawn of the Herald with pre-prep. You can also do this in reverse order with regular prep if you have Saphira, because Saphira will go ahead, discard, add like any of the rituals you need. But when you prep, you can dump this and add it back, and then add Herald of Perfection. So we will start off with Diviner, normal summon it, and we will dump an Arclight. And so this will be level 6, and the Arclight will get us a Ritual Monster Search, which we will go ahead and get an Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph Dragon. Next, we are going to activate Dawn of the Herald, tribute this to special summon Herald of Perfection. Chain Link 1 will be Diviner, Chain Link 2 will be Dawn of the Herald to add this back, and now we have negates for like Nibiru and whatnot. And cool thing about Diviner here, you summon a level 2 or lower fairy from your deck, including Navox. So now, we already have the reinforcing barrier, so we can get the trap immediately. And we will start off with Silo Force Barrier. We will go ahead and add a... Let's see here. We can go ahead and add a Saphira here. No, actually, let's go ahead and add the Navox direct... Not Navox, the Skull Guardian directly. And then we will go ahead and Ritual Summon it by attributing this, which allows us to special this. This comes back, and we get to add a Siloforce monster, and we will go ahead and add Saphira, activate it, dump a ritual spell, and then, of course, we can go ahead and add an Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph Dragon, which we are down 1 ritual spell, which is annoying. We will go ahead and activate this, not this, the other one. So we can go ahead and we can turn, like, this into that. This can just special summon a Siloforce monster from your deck. Then when you do that, you can actually, like, do something like this and go into this. So we get a double special summon bounce. Next, we will banish the Saphira, tribute this to special summon Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph, and then we can go ahead and shuffle these 2 back for this. So we will probably save our Sarveus until one of these is detached, of course. And then we can go ahead and just activate this in the Pendulum Scale. And during the end phase, this will go back to our hand, and we can add a ritual spell, and then there we go. So we have an Omni Negate, a Spell Negate. This will bounce into a Summon Negation, 2 special summon bounces, and then like 1 to 2 pops, which is honestly not a bad setup. So normally, they'll go their special summon, we'll bounce it, we'll go Sarveus into actual Sarveus. Actually, we can go into Skull Guardian as well, and then just turn it into an Omni Negate. This will come back, get us another barrier of some kind. So we can actually make 2 Omni Negates instead of a Summon Negate. Then when we do this, we can go ahead and summon an Odd Eyes. And then we're just good to go from there. Look at this setup. This is just... So we can actually make 2 Omni Negates instead of a Summon Negate. Then when we do this, we can go ahead and summon an Odd Eyes. And then we're just good to go from there. Look at this setup. This is just such a cool ritual deck. Now, it's always going to have, like, similar pitfalls like every other ritual deck, like D-Barrier and Troll. But, I mean, this is, like, kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. This is, like, such a really cool setup here. I like it. I think this deck is really cool. I do, like, funny enough, it's, like, giving a whole bunch of legacy cards, new cards. But, like, even without that, it's just such a fascinating ritual deck with a lot of really interesting promise. And this is a card I think should be included in the list just because of all its utilities. I think this is just a really, really strong card in here. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master Dinnerflax will take your soul.